Welcome to the next video in a series of GIS tutorials geared towards local officials on how to use FEMA base level engineering datasets in GIS to support flood hazard mitigation decisions. This tutorial series was developed by the Water Institute of the Gulf in partnership with FEMA Region 6 through FEMA's Cooperating Technical Partners Program. This video will discuss the ways in which emergency managers may use base level engineering datasets to plan for hazards and communicate risks to communities. After importing and symbolizing data from the BLE tool, it may be helpful to download and import street center lines for the study area. This could be local street data from your municipality's GIS department or open source data from the internet. An emergency manager would need this data to locate levels of street access when planning evacuation routes for communities, pinpointing potential assembly areas for communities during major flood events, and identifying evacuation destinations. It may also be helpful to use a world imagery base map or a world imagery hybrid base map. This allows for better spatial understanding for communities when presenting them with BLE data. Before taking a closer look at the data in GIS, it's important to ensure that the layers located in the table of contents are easily understandable. Here are some examples of renamed data layers that may help avoid confusion and prevent you from having to decipher lengthy acronyms. An emergency manager may use flood hazard area data to communicate risks to communities. Zone A shows areas subject to inundation by the 1% annual chance flood event. Zone X represents moderate risk areas within the 0.2% annual chance floodplain. When creating evacuation plans for a community, emergency managers must first consider street access. When turning on the flood depth layer for a 100-year flood event, it becomes clear that the two roads out of the study area run over a creek and would likely be inundated with water. Zooming out, it seems that the only way to reach a main road would be from a field behind the study area. In a 100-year flood event, it is possible that some residents would be able to shelter in place, as the modeling suggests that most parcels located in the upper half of the subdivision would not experience more than 1 foot of flooding. However, elderly and medically vulnerable residents, as well as residents living in the lower part of the community, may require more planning, especially during a flood event that coincides with power outages. Ideas about where buses could retrieve people and where people could assemble should their homes flood are factors that must be considered from an emergency management perspective. It would be of interest to an emergency manager to also look at street data attributes such as type of road or street elevation against the flood depth grid to understand how prone certain streets may be to flooding. The depth grid could also be used as a tool to communicate risk to the community and would allow people to make evacuation plans for themselves and their families for a 100-year flood event.